We'll start with the London game. Obviously, the Thursday night game, was incredible. We talked about that at great length on Friday's show. That video there, by the way, on that game will be going out later today. So stay tuned there on that front. Thought Jackson Dart was tremendous in the game, and we'll see. There's definitely reason to be a little bit excited if you're a New York Giants fan with what you have. But we'll start with the London game. Broncos beat the Jets 13-11. Maybe the worst game of the year. To this point, the Jets are downright putrid. They have not won a football game, and the Bengals obviously play them in a couple of weeks. That has to be a win. No ifs, ands, or buts. Has to be a victory. Absolutely has to be a victory, but the Jets stink. Justin Fields, he's no good. The offensive line, bad. Coaching's bad. Is Glenn going to be a one and done? I don't know. We'll see. But some reason to be concerned about Denver. I think credit to them. It's a National Football League win. They're across the pond in London. That's, weird having to deal with all that. But Sean Payton, I've got a lot of belief in him, but Bo Nix hasn't taken a step in the right direction. He's regressed. Fortunately for him in Denver, they found ways to still win some games despite his regression, but that's got to get cleaned up because Kansas City is certainly coming, and you could argue the Chargers are as well. We'll talk about those teams in a little bit. Raiders beat the Titans 20-10. Cam Ward, I thought he was going to be a guy that could come in and show those flashes right away. I think he'll still be okay. Obviously, he's going to have plenty of time to try to work out the kinks, but do you make a move with Callahan after you only have the one win? I mean, that's a Raiders team that's really bad, right? And it's only a 10-point game, but really that was not close. Tennessee, a complete mess right now, and the Jets and the Titans, two worst teams in the National Football League. And the Raiders, the 20 points. I keep saying it. Geno Smith, you had an opportunity to get Sam Darnold. He's balling. And Geno Smith continuing to have bad interceptions, and they're in a tough spot there. Pete Carroll, Chip Kelly, and those guys in Vegas, but they do pick up a win 20-10. The Steelers, as I mentioned, a victory against the Cleveland Browns. They win that football game 23-9. Gabriel, I mean, he dropped back to throw it 50-plus times in that game. I get you were behind. And you needed to throw the football, but you just have no chance, with a third-round guy making his second, I believe, start for Cleveland there in that spot against that defense. If you're going to make him drop back and do that with limited weaponry, you're going to get absolutely smoked, and that's kind of what happened in the game. Aaron Rodgers, I sat here on this show going into the year and said that he is going to elevate Pittsburgh to new heights because he can still play the quarterback position at a competent level. He looks good throwing a football. I get he's 40-plus years of age as well. He looks really, really good. Pittsburgh's always been a solid team, a great foundation, good coach. And they just, ever since Ben retired, they haven't gotten anything really out of the quarterback position. Aaron Rodgers is giving it to them. And if he can stay healthy, Pittsburgh's going to be an issue here. I'm not going to say they're going to mess around and win playoff games or anything like that, but if he can stay healthy, somebody's got to wake up in the North, whether it be Cincinnati or Baltimore, because they're going to continue to win games. And, people laughed when I said that about Aaron Rodgers. Oh, he's washed. He's just finishing up his career because he didn't want it to end how things ended in New York. He's playing at a high level, and you got to give him a lot of credit for that. And, let's be very clear. If that's a Kenny Pickett or a Mason Rudolph or whatever, this team doesn't have one loss. They have a lot more than that. Rodgers playing at the position at a really high level. That relationship and that bond and that chemistry with DK Metcalf is serious. And we'll see. Hopefully, if the Bengals can't pressure Aaron Rodgers at all on Thursday night, he's going to pick them apart. He's going to absolutely pick them apart. So hopefully the Bengals can apply some pressure, flush him out of the pocket a little bit, and force him to throw some footballs away, maybe take some sacks, some incompletions, right? Typically Rodgers not going to throw interceptions, but big game, man. Big game on Thursday, and I'm fired up about it. The Bengals, turned the page really quickly. You could already hear Zach Taylor already after the game where typically coaches are like, obviously we got to turn the page, but we're not going to get fired up and right into it. It was Pittsburgh week the second that game ended in Green Bay, and we'll see what team shows out. But Bengals-Steelers, primetime, Thursday Night Football, what more can you ask for, especially after some reason to be optimistic there with what the offense was able to do in the second half. They were Joe Flacco, Zach Taylor, they were asked if that's something I can carry over. We'll see. Again, Trey Hendrickson up in the air here at this point. Shamar Stewart, by the way, could perhaps come back, which would be huge. Haven't seen him throughout the entirety of this losing streak there as well. So he could perhaps provide a spark for Cincinnati. But Cleveland loses 23-9. Chargers-Dolphins, arguably the game of the 1 o'clock window there. Chargers come back and win that game. Fortunate they were able to do it. They were staring 3 straight losses directly in the face. I've been high on the Chargers, but some shaky moments there throughout the course of that game. Credit to Miami for coming back. Great drive there from Tua as they take the lead, and I believe it was like 30 seconds and a timeout needed to get into field goal range to win the game. They hit McConkey there. He breaks some tackles, makes a couple of nice moves, gets down into field goal range, out of bounds. Herbert there on that play was under siege. He was able to hang in there. The ball was in his left hand at one point. There was a guy that had his arm around him. He switched it back over to his right hand and found McConkey there. Huge play for them as they kind of got their season back on the tracks there with that victory. But Tua, the biggest takeaway in that Miami game is what in the world was Tua talking about Loa saying at the podium after the game? Just airing out the dirty laundry, saying that they have these player-only meetings that guys aren't showing up for. And it's just, I think Tua in his heart, means well, but sometimes he takes the podium and he says things that he should not be saying, and he's done that, for most of his career here in Miami, to be honest with you. And they had a real opportunity these past 2 weeks to kind of silence some criticism, silence some of those doubters there in South Beach, and they blow the game, the 17-0 lead against Carolina last week, and then had an opportunity here to win this game against a good team, the Chargers, and they lose that game there as well. But 29-27, Chargers win, and that AFC West, that's getting fun there. As we mentioned, Denver at the top, they're struggling but still winning some games. Kansas City, talk about them in a second. They're certainly coming, and they're in a spot where that West could be a really good division to keep an eye on. Patriots go to New Orleans and beat the Saints 25-19. Saints are one of the worst teams in the NFL, but I think Rattler deserves some credit. I mean, he's hanging in there, and he's doing the best he can in that spot with the lack of help around him. There's been conversation, are the Saints going to make the move to Shuck? Only a matter of time before that does eventually happen. But I think Rattler's playing solid. Nobody really giving him any credit. But the New England Patriots are the story here. And we said it on the show last week after beating Buffalo. They feel like a playoff team. Drake Maye was unbelievable in this game. Again, you got to pump the brakes a little bit because it is the Saints. I understand that. But he was really, really good in this game. 3 touchdowns, the balls down the football field, the arm strength, the athleticism, the leadership. He's checking a lot of boxes. You knew Vrabel was going to come in and turn this organization around immediately. He is doing just that. And the Patriots improve now, I believe, to 2 games over 500. They have a very favorable schedule ahead of them, and they seem like a playoff team. Lots of reason to have belief in Drake Maye. You had all the rookie quarterbacks, last year. Daniels obviously got all the hype, but Drake Maye, he's one of those guys there as well, and that is a huge win for New England. As if Buffalo stumbles tonight, you could be in a spot where it's like, oh, this Patriot team, they might not even be a wild card. They might just go in there and flat out win this division. So that's a really good football team. They play good defense. The organization feels like they have a stability about them again that they had seemingly lost last year under Drake Maye. Vrabel, he's tremendous. And, anybody that thought he wasn't going to succeed, probably crazy. I get it's early here, but, Drake Maye and the Patriots, that's a really good football team. Kayshon Boutte, by the way, a guy that seemingly was a bust. He has another great game for New England as well. The Rams beat the Ravens 17-3. The Ravens are a total mess. It is hard to believe. They even got Kyle Hamilton back in this game. I think they took some steps in the right direction defensively, but 3 points. Cooper Rush gets benched. They go to Huntley, which, by the way, I would have went with Huntley over Rush to begin with. I'm a firm believer that the backup quarterback needs to somewhat resemble the starting quarterback. And Huntley, of course, has those legs. He can escape. He can run. He can throw on the move. Similar things that Lamar Jackson, of course, has. Nobody is Lamar Jackson. I totally get that. But I tell you who's the furthest thing from Lamar Jackson. That is Cooper Rush. And he has been downright awful as a starter here in Baltimore. And, the defense, I guess, is a little bit better. Maybe the Rams aren't as good as we thought, by the way. I thought the Rams were one of the best teams in pro football. Puka Nacua gets hurt. They might be without him for a couple of weeks. Only score 17 points there. Stafford under 200 yards throwing the football. So it's a win for, L.A. on the road. I get it, flying across the country, playing the 1 o'clock time slot. It's never easy for a West Coast team. But maybe the Rams aren't as good as we thought, but the Ravens are a complete mess, a literal complete mess. And you could sit here and make the argument that they're just as bad as Cleveland, which is really, really hard to kind of wrap your head around there. But obviously when Lamar comes back, that's going to look totally different. He'll find ways to put them on his back and win some games. But, while Lamar's down, and we'll see if, he plays here this coming week, it's imperative for the Bengals to kind of separate themselves a little bit from Baltimore and just try to, chase down Pittsburgh. And obviously that's what, makes this Thursday game, on top of a lot of reasons, a really important game for Cincinnati as they try to, put a foot in front of Baltimore, because obviously they do have to play them twice coming up this year. Colts beat the Cardinals 31-27. That was a solid game there as well. Another victory for the Indianapolis Colts. Had them, I believe, at the 5 spot in my power rankings. They're not going to be doing much movement there. I guess the Cardinals are the backup quarterback, but 31 points there at home. Daniel Jones continues to do good things at the quarterback position. Did have the interception, but he played well. Credit to Jacoby Brissett, by the way. He came in there and played solid and gave Arizona a chance to win that game with Kyler Murray down. But who would have thought? Indianapolis Colts, one of the best teams in the AFC. Seattle beats the Jaguars 20-12. Hand up accountability. I probably was a little bit too aggressive there, throwing the Jaguars into the top 10 of my power rankings after their Monday night win against the Kansas City Chiefs. But Seattle's really, really good. Sam Darnold, I keep talking about him. He's playing at a really high level, completing lots of his throws, touchdowns, working the ball down the field to JSN, who's been unbelievable. Cooper Kupp kind of is now that guy that doesn't have to do a ton, but he can still help you out there at this point in his career. Very reliable when it comes to catching the football, and certainly not afraid to block either. And he's been healthy for Seattle to this point this year. The big story, obviously, is JSN, Sam Darnold, Mike McDonald. They're doing tremendous. I've got Seattle as my fantasy defense. I roll them out there every week, despite regardless of who they're playing, and they fly around and they make plays too. So, Schneider has done a tremendous job drafting on the defensive side of the ball. They continuously have these young guys that come in and are ready to play right away, and that's a really good defense there with Seattle. Jacksonville just makes too many mistakes at this stage of the game. They drop the ball too much. Procedural stuff is still an issue. We'll see if they can still be a playoff team for Liam Cohen in his first year, but I think they're a pretty considerable step behind Indianapolis there in that division. They'll be off my power rankings, but that's a big-time win for Seattle going on the road and picking up a victory 20-12 against the Jaguars. Panthers get another win. They beat Miami a couple of weeks ago, coming back from 17-0. They beat Dallas here. It's amazing because Dallas is such a bad team, but Dak Prescott is just making them relevant here. It kind of reminds you of the Bengals last year with Burrow in some ways. I mean, they can't run the football. They can't stop the run. Rico Dowdle went absolutely off again for Carolina. They can't stop the pass. They've got just holes all over the place for Dallas, but Dak Prescott's playing at an MVP level. Missed a couple. He wasn't perfect in the game, but he was really, really good against Carolina. And that's a bad defeat there for Dallas. As that's just a game that they need to win. But that defense is putrid. They can't run the ball on offense. They are just a Dak Prescott show. And credit to him, he's delivering each and every week for Dallas. But if you're in a situation where it's just your quarterback that you're relying on, and CeeDee Lamb, by the way, one of the best receivers in the game, isn't playing, you're going to lose some games that you shouldn't lose. And that's what happened there on the road with Carolina. Credit to Bryce Young. He played well in the game, especially when they were down in the fourth quarter. I believe he didn't even have an incompletion there during that stretch, which is pretty incredible. But it was Rico Dowdle in the run game of Carolina that was able to propel them over the top. Back-to-back wins for the Panthers. And it's weird with Bryce Young. It's like, oh, he's not the guy. He might be the guy. Oh, he is the guy. Oh, he's definitely not the guy. Oh yeah, he might be the guy. It's just a roller coaster with him in Carolina. It's a bad defense. And, he didn't throw for a ton of yards in the game either. Did have another turnover. So that's interesting. We'll just have to keep monitoring that each and every week. But a bad loss there for the Dallas Cowboys. Tampa Bay, they beat the Niners 30-19. Shoot, they might be the best team in the National Football League. We said before the year, don't be surprised if they're playing for the NFC Championship. Their aspirations and expectations might be even higher than that at this point. If the season ended today, Baker Mayfield is the MVP. Flat-out dog. Can make all the throws. Gritty, tough, aggressive, showing off his legs there as well, pushing the football down the football field. Leadership, he's just checking all the boxes there for Tampa Bay against a really good Niners team. I thought Mac Jones was great again in the game, but had the 2 interceptions, and that was obviously what held the Niners back in that game as Tampa Bay wins that 30-19. But we've kind of sat there and said, you're winning all these one-score games, field goals, game-winning drives, right, for Tampa. They won this one obviously by 11 points. It was close for the majority of this game, but, Baker obviously made fewer mistakes than Mac Jones, who threw for 350-plus yards, I think, 340-plus yards in the game, so he was solid. But, the injuries continue to pile up for San Francisco. Fred Warner is done for the year. Man, just each and every year for this team, they continue to get hurt. And I don't know, like the Bosa one, it's like, okay, that really, really stings and it sucks and it's unfortunate, but they might be able to overcome that. You lose Fred Warner. I mean, that is the captain of this team and still one of the best linebackers in professional football. And losing him is a mighty, mighty blow. And we'll see how the Niners can respond there. The Brock Purdy situation, but a devastating loss for them. But Tampa Bay, how about them? 30-19, another win for Baker Mayfield and those boys. And lastly, Sunday Night Football, Chiefs beat the Lions 30-17. By the way, if you tuned in to our Best Bets of the Weekend on Friday's show, if you rode with us, you are a very happy camper here on Monday morning, as 4-1, as we needed it. We really needed that bounce back to kind of get us back into the swing of things here. We are now still under 500, 13-15 on the year. Not great, but a significant improvement after a 4-1 week. Onward and upward from here. But, I said it on the show. Anytime you're in a spot where 90% of the public money is on one team, you go the other way, and you don't even think twice about it. That was our rationale for this game. 90% of the public was on Kansas City plus 2.5, and obviously Vegas reeled in on that one, and hope you reap the benefits there with us. 30-17 Chiefs win. And once the game started, you're like, oh, this is why. Right? Vegas knows what they're doing here. Patrick Mahomes gets the news right before the game. He's going to be without one of his starting tackles, so you're like, oh, that's not great. But those DBs, man, for Detroit, the corners aren't good, and the safeties are, but they were really, really banged up. Kirby and Brian Branch, who, by the way, got in a fight after the game. Not exactly sure what that was about. Just looked like being a sore loser there, to be completely honest with you. But that's kind of also why you see the Bengals make that trade, right? The Lions are a really good team. I just had them at number 1 in my power rankings. Obviously, they're not going to be number 1 anymore this week. Really good offense, really good run game, good head coach, coordinator does a nice job stepping in for Ben Johnson, right? But, I mean, those DBs, man, they aren't good. And I was not joking around when I said that Joe Burrow would have went off against the Lions in that game, and instead Jake Browning was just downright awful. Change needed to be made. Mahomes was excellent in the game. I said, last week it feels like only a matter of time before KC goes on a run here. This might be the start of the run, but that schedule's difficult. That schedule is very, very difficult for the Kansas City Chiefs, but just Mahomes' greatness in the game last night, they win that one big, 30-17.